Kern Valley State Prison, located in Delano, California, would first open its doors in 2005 and now houses over 3,100 minimum and high security custody inmates. Just a couple days ago, on June 6, 2025, at approximately 10:30 a.m., incarcerated person Mario Renteria would allegedly begin striking fellow incarcerated person Julian Mendez. And although staff would immediately respond with orders to get down, the two men failed to comply. Soon, chemical agents were released into the air to hopefully stop the attack, and although the violence was almost put to a halt, right as things were slowing down, more than 30 additional incarcerated people began to rush Renteria and began striking him. Orders to stop were ignored, and staff had to use multiple blast grenades to finally stop the violence. When the smoke cleared, Renteria's victim, Julian Mendez, had received multiple stab wounds, and life-saving measures were immediately performed. However, Julian Mendez was pronounced deceased at 11:05 a.m.
Well, gang members who move to the Inland Empire often bring their LA gang affiliation with them. In some cases, start new cliques. And as we see in this Fox Undercover report, raise the stakes of violence.
Hey, look at this IE, what's up? You know where you're at, Inland Empire right here.
Here in the Inland Empire city of Colton, a couple dozen members of RTS gather in a backyard. RTS 5 years ago stood for Running the Streets, the name of a tagger crew. Now, it stands for Ruthless 12th Street, the taggers evolving into a hardcore street gang.
We acted like gangsters because the reaction of other conflicts with other gangs, it would always cause us to shoot at people or fight with people.
Graffiti on telephone poles, stop signs, and street pavement marks their neighborhood territory. A few blocks away is North Side Colton turf, a much older gang that came down on RTS hard.
Finally, we just got tired of it. We had no choice, but to blast back, be gangsters.
After several years of shootings and stabbings, RTS and North Side have now sought a truce.
We're from the same neighborhood. We can't be blasting on each other. We live too close.
On this night, a two-man delegation from rival North Side Colton is here to confirm the 2-month-old truce. North Side's Greedy says maybe it will work, maybe it won't.
It depends on them, It depends whether if any other homeboys tripping.
Several hours later, police are here snapping photos. Searching for weapons.
Snapping photos, searching for weapons, and issuing citations under the Street Terrorism Act.
We had a shooting incident that occurred here yesterday, and as a result of that, the officers have been monitoring the activity at this residence.
Even if Inland Empire gangs could keep the peace among themselves, San Bernardino County Deputy District Attorney Cheryl Kersey says there is another problem.
Lately, we've seen a lot of migration. In fact, the last probably 4 or 5 homicides I've handled have been LA gangs committing their crimes in our county.
One of the victims was 14-year-old Xavier Castro.
This is him up here.
His mom says Xavier was a funny, happy-go-lucky kid who loved sports, played on the freshman baseball and football team, and dreamed of being a pro someday.
He wasn't into gang stuff. You know, to him, that was dumb. Like he said, he was all sports. You know, that was his whole life.
But 17 months ago, those dreams ended here on a sidewalk a few blocks from Colton High School. Xavier with one bullet hole in his leg and a second in his brain. Killed execution style by 14-year-old Ascension Gomez, nicknamed Smokey, a reputed 18th Street gang member from Los Angeles, trying to prove himself to Colton homeboys.
RTS at the time were in the process of growing in fantastic numbers. They were also tagging Colton with their names, graffiti everywhere, and everybody hated the RTS gang.
Victim Xavier Castro was walking home from school with an RTS member who was wounded by the gunfire. Xavier also had 2 cousins in the gang.
That's my little cousin. He wasn't in the neighborhood, but he was always with us, and he died because of us, because of our name.
18th Streeter Gomez was convicted in adult court and sentenced to 2 life terms in prison. He denies he did it and slugged his defense attorney after the verdict was read. The way prosecutors tell it, The Gomez family moved to Colton from Compton to escape gang violence. But Mr. Gomez, a hard-working family man, and his stay-at-home wife, Maria, say that's not true and insist their son is not an 18th Street gangster.
You don't believe that he did it?
No.
Okay.
We know him.
Barely able to talk about it, Ascension's mother claims her son is innocent, that someone else is the killer, but the family can't prove it. Two more families devastated by mindless violence resulting from growing tensions between Inland Empire gangs and those moving in from Los Angeles.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel today. It means a lot. Really quick, let's do the intros. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. And if you like it, go back, check out some other content, check out some other videos, and let me know what you think. If you are someone who has continued to support the channel, continue to watch videos, subscribed, commented, engage in conversation, then you already know how much you mean to me. Thank you so much. And that leads me into my last part. If you do like what you see, if you do like what you hear, hit the like button, hit the comment button, engage in some conversation. And lastly, please do subscribe, because if you have followed me at all, you know our goal for this year was 20,000, and it looks like we can hit that halfway through the year in June. That would be amazing. And I am, again, humbled and nothing without the continued support of the viewers, the people that have supported this channel since the beginning. So again, thank you guys. All right, guys, really quick before we jump into it, I just wanted to let you guys know I was not slacking on you guys. I left Friday afternoon early. My best friend of almost 20 years got married. I was the best man in his wedding. It's about 3-4 hours away from where I live. I had some service. I had service at the hotel, but where I was at most of the time, I had no service at all. So just wanted to let you guys know that I'm not slacking. I could not wait to get back to make a video. And I actually came across this on Saturday night. We got back late to the hotel. It was like 1 a.m. I was scrolling, and I was able to plug into the YouTube world really quick, and I came across this, and I knew, I was like, I'm going to do this as soon as I get back. Very recent, just happened 3 days ago. Yeah, I think, so when I read it, it was only like less than 24 hours old, or just over 24 hours old, something like that, the story was. So really interesting. There was a little mix-up that we're going to be covering between Mendez and Renteria. A lot of people thought Mario Renteria attacked Julian Mendez. A lot of people thought that those 30 additional people that rushed in, that they attacked Mendez, who was the initial victim. No, they attacked the initial attacker, Mario Renteria. Just want to make that very clear. But let's read from this article on the CDCR's website. Then we're going to jump into the background information of these two individuals. Julian Mendez was on death row. I found his case fascinating. So let's go. California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation officials are investigating the June 6th, 2025 death of an incarcerated person at Kern Valley State Prison as a homicide. At approximately 10:30 a.m., incarcerated person Mario Renteria allegedly began striking incarcerated person Julian Mendez. Staff immediately responded with orders to get down, but the men failed to comply. Chemical agents initially stopped the attack, but like I said in the intro, right as things were slowing down, more than 30 additional incarcerated people would rush Mario Renteria and begin striking him. Orders to stop were ignored, and staff used multiple blast grenades to quell the violence. 30 people. Mendez received multiple wounds, and life-saving measures were immediately performed. Mendez was taken to KVSP's triage and treatment area, where a doctor pronounced him deceased at 11:05 a.m. As the mob was cleared, officials found Mendez with what was only described as multiple wounds and attempted life-saving measures. An improvised weapon was also found at the scene. An improvised weapon was found at the scene. Renteria remains in restricted housing pending investigation into this case. Officials have limited population movement to facilitate the investigation being conducted by KVSP's Investigative Services Unit and the Kern County District Attorney's Office. The Office of the Inspector General was notified, and the Kern County Coroner will determine Mendez's official cause of death, even though we already know what that is. Now, Mendez, our victim, Julian Mendez, 46, was received from Riverside County on December 2nd, 2004. He had received a death sentence in 2002 for the first-degree murder of 2 teenagers. We're going to get into that. I got really good information on that. It's fascinating. Mario Renteria, 36 years old, was received from Riverside County on April 27th, 2022. He was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole for first-degree murder as a third strike offense and arson. Now, again, Julian Mendez, he was sentenced to death. He was a North Side Colton gang member. All right, now, North Side Colton, this is all in the Inland Empire and within kind of the San Bernardino area. North Side Colton is one of the biggest cliques within this barrio, okay? When you think of Colton, when you think of all that, a lot of people, you would say North Side Colton. That's just what I will say. So let's read from the appeal, give a little more breakdown on the gang and who he was beefing with and what led to the murders of these teenagers. Okay, so just to give you a quick background, this was an appeal decision that was made on July 1st, 2019. Julian Mendez was originally charged on April 30th, 2001 for the double murder. He ended up being found guilty on September 8th, 2004 and was sentenced to death on September 24th, 2004. Gives you an idea how long this stuff takes because you fast forward 15 years and his appeals are still working their way through. This is People v. Mendez, opinion of the court. This case concerns the murders of Michael Faria and Jessica Salazar. I was not able to find a picture of Faria. I did put up a picture of Jessica Salazar. The people charged 3 members of a gang called North Side Colton, one of the largest barrios in all of Inland Empire. North Side Colton stretches from Valley Boulevard and Hermosa Avenue and continues to Rialto Avenue all the way down to 8th Street. They charged those gang members with murdering Faria after, okay, pay attention, this is charging them with the murder of Michael Faria after he claimed allegiance to another very large gang, a rival gang by the name of West Side Verdugo, also a very large gang in San Bernardino County. And then, this is what's really messed up, and this is why he got the death penalty. They also murdered Jessica Salazar for just being a witness to the murder of Michael Faria. These guys were only like 15, 16 years old. It was brutal. The 3 gang members charged here were Joe Gato Rodriguez, Daniel Wedo Lopez, and defendant Julian Alejandro Midget Mendez. Mendez was tried jointly with Rodriguez and Lopez, but by a separate jury. Mendez was convicted and sentenced to death. This automatic appeal concerns him alone. Among the most crucial evidence presented against Mendez at trial was testimony from 2 people, a friend of the accused, Samuel Devil Redmond, who pled guilty to first-degree murder to avoid the death penalty, and a friend of the victims, Sergio Lizarraga. And I put up a picture of Samuel Devil Redmond, actually, for you guys. They had a whole other thing with him. People were not wanting him to be released. This case sparked a ton of outrage. The following description of the crimes relies primarily on accounts from these 2 witnesses. The murder of Michael Faria. Redmond and Mendez had been friends since childhood and shared an apartment in Colton, California. At trial, Redmond testified about what happened on the night of the killings. He and Mendez drank alcohol and smoked methamphetamine in their apartment with Lopez, Mendez's eventual co-defendant. The 3 men then sat out in Redmond's SUV, a black Nissan Pathfinder, to meet up with friends living at a nearby Four Seasons apartment complex. There they encountered Mendez's other eventual co-defendant, Rodriguez, who suggested they meet some fellow Northside Colton gang members, specifically Art Rascal Luna and his brothers at their house on Michigan Street in Colton. When the 4 of them arrived, they saw Luna in a car with a bunch of kids, and walking along the street was another group of kids whom Redmond estimated were between 15 and 16 years old. Among this latter group were the murder victims in this case, Michael Faria and Jessica Salazar. With them were Lizarraga, Greg Frias, and David Flores. Lizarraga later provided the most detailed witness accounts of Faria's death. According to Lizarraga's testimony, he and his 4 companions saw a black SUV park across the street. The man who appeared to have been the driver emerged from the car and walked to the house. 2 other men exited the SUV and struck up a conversation with Salazar. Faria and Flores were standing nearby. When Lizarraga beckoned them, they started to walk away. Then one of the 2 men said to Salazar, quote, "I think I know you." She turned around and started walking towards him again. At that moment, the man who appeared to have been driving the SUV walked up to Lizarraga and Faria. Faria asked him, "Where are you from?" Without answering, the man put the question back to Faria. Faria answered, "I back up the west." The man retorted, "Fuck the west side. North Side Colton." That worried Lizarraga, who interpreted the back and forth as an escalating gang challenge. Seeking to calm the situation, Lizarraga tried to get between the man and Faria, telling the latter, quote, "It's cool, just chill out, walk away." Then as Lizarraga turned around, the man punched him in the face. Lizarraga persisted in trying to de-escalate the situation. Moments later, he saw Flores being chased. At that point, Faria was still standing next to Lizarraga, but then a group of people descended on Faria and beat him to the ground. Lizarraga, having backed away, started running towards Faria. Someone grabbed Lizarraga by the shirt. Salazar intervened and told Lizarraga's would-be assailant, quote, "No, he's cool. He's not from the West." The man let go, but before Lizarraga could do anything else, someone shot Faria. Lizarraga would later tell law enforcement that he was 75% sure Rodriguez shot Faria, but at trial, quote, he could not remember any faces from that night. Redmond testified that after he alighted from the SUV, he saw Mendez, Rodriguez, and Lopez talking to Salazar. Remember, that's the girl. Redmond and Lopez began to walk towards Luna's, that's Rascal, house across the street, leaving Mendez and Rodriguez with Salazar and her friends. Moments later, Redmond heard an argument. Then, standing with Lopez and Luna, Redmond saw a fight break out in a crowd gathering. A chase involving Mendez and Rodriguez ensued. Redmond stayed put, but Lopez and Luna, the latter of whom had just been handed a gun by his younger brother, started walking towards the fray. Lopez quickly turned around and sprinted back. He told Raymond, quote, "Hurry up, let's go get midgets." So the two men ran back to the SUV and started driving. Soon after, they saw Mendez and Rodriguez racing their way. Mendez was holding a gun. That's Julian Mendez. Then it goes into the murder of Jessica Salazar. Redmond also testified about the next few minutes. This is where it gets brutal, which resulted in a second killing. Once he, Lopez, Rodriguez, and Mendez were back in Redmond's SUV, they saw Salazar, that's Jessica Salazar, on the sidewalk, quote, going hysterical and crying, and, quote, not knowing where to go. Mendez directed Rodriguez to tell Salazar that she should get into the SUV since they knew each other. Rodriguez did so, and she complied. Mendez told Redmond, quote, "Drive us and get us out of here." After stopping back at the Four Seasons apartments, they entered the freeway and drove. Salazar, meanwhile, was, quote, going nuts, crying and asking repeatedly, "Why did you do that?" With fuel running low, Redmond pulled into a gas station. Although at trial, his memory of what happened next was foggy, Redmond recalled going to the bathroom with Mendez. Either Lopez or Rodriguez joined them, and the other stayed near the car with Salazar. Mendez said, quote, "She's got to die." From there, they got back into the SUV and started driving again. Redmond drove about 20 to 30 minutes before coming upon a dirt road. They took it. Eventually, someone said, quote, "I got to take a piss." Redmond pulled over, and the four men got out. The area was dark and deserted. Quote, "She's got to die. She's got to die," Mendez repeated. He urged Rodriguez to kill Salazar, saying, quote, "You know her," and, quote, "She's going to identify you." Rodriguez refused. But when Mendez told him to, quote, "drag her out," Rodriguez pulled Salazar from the SUV. She panicked, crying, quote, "Stop it and don't." Rodriguez got back into the SUV, leaving Mendez and Redmond alone with Salazar. Mendez was holding a gun, and Salazar was pleading for her life. Mendez told Redmond to hold her, but Salazar tripped. She fell, started to get up, raised her hands, and Mendez shot her. Moments later, someone saw a car approaching and said, "Come on, let's go." Mendez reported, quote, "No, I have to put two in her head." He tried to shoot Salazar again, but the gun jammed. Seeing this and wary of the oncoming car, Redmond said, "I'm leaving." Mendez gave up on trying to clear the jam and got into the car with Redmond, Lopez, and Rodriguez. They drove off into the night. Redmond further testified about what happened after he, Rodriguez, Lopez, and Mendez departed from the scene at Salazar's killing. They set out for Redmond and Mendez's apartment. During the drive, Mendez suggested burning the SUV to get rid of the vehicle, saying he wanted to ensure they can't tie it back to me. Redmond responded, "You're effing crazy. It's my truck. I paid for it." When they arrived at the apartment, Mendez directed Redmond not to park in front of the building. Once inside, Mendez took everyone's shoes and clothing and put them in a bag. He also walked them through setting up alibis. Mendez suggested that Redmond and Lopez say they were at a motel the whole night with two female friends. Mendez planned to say he was with his girlfriend at the apartment. It is unclear whether Rodriguez crafted an alibi. Several days later, Mendez's older brother told Redmond to switch the tires on his SUV with those from a white Isuzu Rodeo, an SUV similar size to Redmond's Nissan Pathfinder, which Redmond did. Mendez was later arrested driving the Rodeo, and its tires matched the tracks found near Salazar's body. So, yeah, they tried to be smart about it. It did not work out. You have witnesses, you have people that cooperate. And a jury ended up finding Mendez guilty of first-degree murder for the killings of both Faria and Salazar, and the special circumstances. So then the penalty phase, especially because basically he killed a witness to prevent her testimony, he ended up getting the death penalty. I think she was only 14 or 15, so very, very brutal. In this case, I would not argue if someone said that Julian Mendez got absolutely what he deserved. Even though it seemed like he was a respected gang member, 30 people got up in his defense to prevent Mario Renteria from trying to kill him, but what he did was still very, very heinous. And both these individuals were from Riverside County, believe it or not. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, very, very crazy. Mario Renteria. This is a background on him. This is about a murder trial, his murder trial in Riverside County. Okay, so article, February 10th, 2022, and it basically talks about the kickoff of his murder trial, of Mario Renteria's murder trial. After weeks of preliminary hearings and delays, the murder trial of Mario Renteria officially began in Riverside Superior Court Wednesday morning with testimony from his former girlfriend and a sheriff's deputy. On April 9th, 2018, the Riverside Fire Department responded to a car fire in Paris, California, where they discovered the charred remains of an unidentified male adult. The victim was also shot to death before the car was on fire. Renteria is suspected of being the perpetrator after authorities responded to a domestic disturbance just miles away from the incident. An hour later, Renteria was taken into custody. Renteria is also accused of stealing the victim's vehicle and then dousing it in flames. He was also charged with grand theft. And I could not find the victim's name. Remains unidentified. Could not find the murder victim's name. In his opening statement, Deputy District Attorney Stephen Merrill quoted Renteria as stating to the authorities, "I killed for fun." The defense, interestingly enough, made no opening statements. DA Merrill went on to suggest Renteria said he set the car on fire because he was trying to, quote, "clean up my mess." First to the stand was Renteria's former girlfriend, who, according to her testimony, was with him for a year and a half prior to the murder. They have 2 children together. They were on and off in their relationship and were not living together at the time of the murder, said the witness, who recalled that on April 9th, Renteria was acting, quote, suspicious. He parked a green Toyota on the side of the road with, quote, no shirt and a gun to his waist, she said. Because of this, the witness called the police and, quote, was fear of her safety. So you got a picture, you're on and off boyfriend. I'm going to just say it. Sometimes I get people in the comments that, how can you assume he's probably on some sort of drugs? He's probably using drugs. He's rolling up. And I'll get to why I think that in a second. He's rolling up, no shirt, gun in the waistband, car she doesn't recognize. She's not calling the cops for no reason, all right? Next to the stand was Riverside County Sheriff's Deputy Gordon Mitchell, a 13-year veteran of the force who responded when a witness called 911 to report Renteria's behavior April 9th. That's the girlfriend. He recalled that day and the former girlfriend's concern for her safety as well as for her children's. Mitchell was at the scene with the green Toyota truck and then assisted his fellow deputies with a high-speed chase that was apparently related to the burning car. Later, with Renteria's cousin on the stand, DA Merrill asked the witness about the incident that occurred on April 9th, 2018. Renteria's cousin, he kind of backed him up. He needed to refresh multiple times. He, quote, kept saying, "It's been so long, man." He really didn't remember. The DA Merrill kept referring back to transcripts from the witness's interview with the detective and read multiple accounts to refresh the witness's memory. The transcript contained descriptions of what the witness had seen and told the detective he had seen, who questioned him after the incident. With a refreshed memory, then his cousin kind of caved a little bit. The witness testified there were no prior signs of disagreement between the Renteria, his cousin, his friend, and the victim. Renteria asked the cousin to help him move the victim's body and for money, but the witness refused, saying the incident did not involve him. Renteria's older cousin avoided any involvement in the incident due to prior felony history and a current probation status in Riverside County. The witness stated that instead of bringing the deceased victim to the hospital, Renteria planned to burn the car and leave for Mexico. According to the witness, Renteria then left the Riverside residence in a Honda vehicle that allegedly belonged to the victim. So yeah, just absolutely crazy. Just kind of goes without saying. Then he pulls up in the girlfriend's car in the car. Did not really have a good plan here. He just kind of was out of his mind a little bit. And in further statements, Renteria actually took the stand in his own defense, and he tried to blame his uncle. He basically tried to say, well, I went over, my uncle and this guy that I don't know were in the backyard smoking drugs. I had a beer. Before I knew it, my uncle pulled a gun out and shot this guy and then pointed the gun at me and forced me to help him do some stuff to kind of help conceal evidence. And then I had to get out of there, and I suffer from bipolar and depression issues. So, hey, man, I really don't remember a lot. I'm a little bit out of my mind, but I don't know what exactly happened. I just know it wasn't me. And that was basically the gist of it when he took his own defense. And I'm not exaggerating. That's literally what he tried to say. Needless to say, he was found guilty, sentenced to life with parole, and then he just committed this crime, or allegedly committed this murder of Julian Mendez just 3 days ago. So, anyway, there you guys have it. Hope you guys enjoyed the story. Absolutely crazy. Let me know what you guys think of Julian Mendez, his crimes, Renteria, his crimes, and just what you think is going on in the CDCR. We said summer was going to be heating up. We said summer was about to go crazy in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. It's looking like that might be the case so far. Until next time, peace.